In the first 2 weeks of August, I participated in the Summer Mixtape Readathon, which was a very chill, very relaxed readathon inspired by summer music. There were 5 reading prompts, and throughout the course of the 2 weeks, I managed to complete the 5 reading prompts twice. I've already wrapped up the first time I completed the prompts in a previous video, which I'll leave linked down below. And so today I'm going to wrap up the 5 final books that I read for the Summer Mixtape Readathon. The first book I completed was for the prompt, we're going to Ibiza, and that prompt was to read a book set in a different country, and so for that I chose The Lady and the Unicorn by Tracy Chevalier. This book imagines the history behind 6 tapestries which hold a big mystery in France, and this is basically Chevalier's imaginings of what happened in order for these tapestries to be created and how they came to be where they are now. In Chevalier's versions of events, a nobleman in France commissions a man named Nicolas de Innocence to design 6 large tapestries for his castle. While he is there designing the tapestries, Nicholas catches the attention of the family's oldest daughter, so in order to prevent them from further interacting, Nicholas is sent away to Belgium to meet the weaver's family. There he meets the head weaver George, who risks everything, including his reputation, in order to try and complete the tapestries in time. I have to say that Nicholas is one of the least sympathetic main characters I have ever encountered. He makes poor decision after poor decision where he thinks the consequences will only impact the women that he is interacting with, and when he does eventually get his just desserts, when they come back round to find him, he is surprised and confused by the whole process and continues to blame everyone but himself. I also didn't really like the eldest daughter of the nobleman. Her name is Claude. She is coming from a place of privilege, and that comes across as very spoilt and very whiny, and I can forgive that to an extent because she is literally a teenager. She's a child, so these actions are not coming from a place of knowledge, they are coming from a place of childhood privilege, which I can forgive to an extent, but I cannot forgive Nicholas because he is a grown man. He is making all these choices himself. The only characters that I found were interesting and redeemable were the weaver and his family, and it was really frustrating that what felt like should have been the biggest opportunity for them continued to come back around and bite them time and time again. This was a book in which I felt like nobody won. The family who commissioned the tapestries didn't win, Nicholas de Innocence didn't win, George and his family of the weavers didn't win, and although I do love Chevalier's writing style and it is beautiful throughout, that could not completely save this novel for me, and so I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I completed was for the prompt Cake by the Ocean, and there were 2 choices with this. You could either read a book to do with food or a spicy book. I read a book to do with food the first time round, but the second time I went for spice, and for that I picked Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. This adult romance novel is the second book in the Brown Sisters trilogy, and we follow the middle sister, and her name is Danny. Danny is a PhD student who is very committed to her work, and she is not at all interested in pursuing a romantic relationship. However, when a video of her work friend Zafir carrying her out of a building after rescuing her from a lift goes viral, Danny and Zafir decide to enter into a mutually beneficial fake dating relationship in order to help Zafir's charity gain more attention and therefore gain more money. However, throughout their fake dating relationship, they begin to develop real feelings for one another, which is jeopardized by, of course, a big miscommunication. I really enjoy the Brown Sisters trilogy, and I think this is definitely my favourite of the 3. Danny's interests align so wonderfully with my own, and Zafir is really my type. I mentioned this in my reading vlog, which I will again link down below, but in the first and the third Brown Sisters trilogy novels, the main love interest are sort of like chiseled, like 6-pack dudes. Not really for me. Zafir in his rugby body is right up my alley, and I really enjoyed that he did not have the stereotypical love interest physique, which was really interesting for me as a reader. I also really loved that as they progressed through this fake dating situation and they communicated more with one another, they realised what it meant to truly be loved and supported within a relationship, which I thought was just beautiful. This is definitely my favourite of the 3, and I feel like this is just the right amount of spice for me. Any spicier and I don't think I'd be that into it, but this was right up my alley, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I completed was for the Mixtape prompt, which was a free reign pick, and so for that I chose Actor Age Apron by Talia Hibbert, the 3rd and final book in the Brown Sisters trilogy, in which we followed the youngest Brown sister, Eve. Eve has never been able to make a career stick until her parents cut her off and she finds herself working at an inn run by the ever grumpy Jacob. At first, Eve and Jacob do not see eye to eye. However, their forced proximity to one another leads them to realise that they have more in common with each other than they initially thought, and this leads them to develop feelings for one another. Something I really like about Talia Hibbert's writing as she's developing these romantic relationships is that she does an awful lot of work in developing the emotional side of the relationship and not just the physical aspects. We see Jacob and Eve come together and comfort one another in the parts of themselves that they find are lacking and celebrate one another for the parts of themselves that they feel are excellent, and I really enjoyed those elements in this book. However, for me, the spicy scenes in this particular novel just weren't to my taste, and that did impact my enjoyment ever so slightly, but not too much. I did still enjoy this as the last installment in the series, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I completed was for the prompt Here Comes the Sun, and the challenge that goes along with that is to read a book with nature on the cover, and so for that I chose Time for Jazz by Natasha Farrant. This is the 4th book in the Bluebell Diaries series. I always get that wrong. It's Bluebell Gadsby Diaries series. It's a lot of syllables going on there. And this is a middle grade series following Bluebell and her family as they try to come to terms with the loss of Bluebell's twin sister Iris. The final installment in this series follow the Gadsby family as they are trying to get ready for back to school season. They are starting a brand new year and they are trying to come to terms with their changing family dynamics and of course all of the chaos that comes with going back to school, along with trying out for new teams, finding yourselves in difficult friendship positions, and of course Bluebell is struggling with the loss of her sister. Again, I really enjoyed the softer moments throughout this novel. I really love the moments where Bluebell is trying to conceptualize the fact that she is growing older and she is developing herself as a person without her twin sister there as her other half. She is trying to find herself and grow within herself, and I thought that was really beautifully done. My problem again is the same problem that I had with the 3rd book and the 1st and 2nd book, if I'm honest, and that is that these soft, beautiful moments are very often drowned out by the ridiculous hijinks, the middle grade hijinks as I call them, that happen throughout the book, which is only to be expected for a middle grade series. Overall, this series was just fine for me. I thought it was fine, and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. The final book that I have to wrap up was for the prompt Here Comes the Weatherman, and that is to read an unseasonable read, and for that I chose Us Against You by Fredrik Backman. Full disclosure, I did not finish reading this during the readathon, but since I read it for one of the prompts, I thought I would include it in this wrap up anyway. This book is the sequel to Beartown, which is set in a very small town which revolves around hockey. Nothing seems to be going right in Beartown. There are shops closing, people are losing their jobs, but in Beartown, there is one singular hope, and that is the junior ice hockey team who are about to play in the semi-finals for the national ice hockey competition. However, the pressure of carrying all the hopes of the town on their shoulders gets to one player in particular, and he commits a violent act, which leaves one girl dealing with the consequences and the entire town reeling because of their actions. In the sequel, Us Against You, we see the Beartown ice hockey team try to re-establish themselves and rebuild following this violent act and the fact that many of their players have defected to go to their rival team in Head. I really enjoy Fredrik Backman's writing. He is an author who continuously brings me to my knees. I did not think it would be possible for me to be so invested in 3 teenage boys who just want to play ice hockey, but I could live to be 100 years old, and the one phrase from this book that will bring me to my knees, that will collapse me every single time is, I'm just asking for my best friend. And I could hear that out of nowhere and just be in floods of tears. It is incredible how much this book impacted me. This book is intricate and detailed and frustrated and annoying and wonderful, and I just loved it so much. And I'm so glad that I found out that there is a 3rd book in this series coming out very soon. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. So those are all the books I have to wrap up in today's video, and this will be my last video for the summer mixtape readathon, but there is going to be an autumn round coming, and I'm very hopeful that I'll be able to fit that into my schedule and participate fully because I really enjoyed this readathon. If you participated, please let me know what you managed to read for each prompt, or if you've picked up something excellent recently and you think I should pick it up too, please let me know because I need an excuse to buy a book. And I will see you soon.